Hey, welcome to the November edition of the How to Podcast series. What are we doing this month? We're doing an episode every single day for the month of November. Yeah, that's a lot of podcast episodes, Dave. And what I want to do is I want to shine a light on amazing podcasters who are doing great things in podcasting. I want you to meet some of my friends. Now, these are friends that I've met through this podcast. These are friends that I've met by being on their show. These are friends that have been at our meetups. These are friends who I cherish and I think are people that you need to know. The best way to grow podcasting is word of mouth marketing, telling people about people's shows. That's what this is all about for the month of November. It's all word of mouth. You're going to hear from them come on and talk about their podcast. You're going to hear clips from shows. You'll have links to go follow these amazing people. And I want to give you a variety of different amazing podcasters for you to fall in love with. And you found the right spot. This is November. It's all about the listeners. It's all about you. And I want to shine a light on some amazing people. Are you ready? Okay. Let's jump into this because I think you're going to love this. And I'm glad you're here. And what I can't wait for is the day when you and I get to interact. I can't wait for us to meet each other at our meetups, online, through the link in the notes attached to this episode, where you and I can meet each other and I can be there in your corner to support you. I would love to do that. So here's another example of one of my friends at their show, and I want you to fall in love with them just as much as I have. Okay? Welcome to the How to Podcast series. It's November. It's National Podcast Post Month. It's 30 episodes in 30 days, and I want you to meet some of my favorite people in this world called podcasting. It's all about them. It's not about me. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. Check out one of my friends. You ready? You ready? Okay, here we go. Okay, so Kevin Palmieri hosts the Podcast Growth University, another great podcast about podcasting. I'm going to keep serving them up to you because I think you should listen to these great shows. And Kevin has a great podcast. He really shows up for you as a listener. Not only does he offer you the expertise of being in podcasting on his one show he does with Alan, Next Level University, over 1,800 episodes. And now he's over here on Podcast Growth University building this as well. And he's here showing up for you as a podcaster. And if you've ever listened to my podcast, you know at the end of the show, I normally end off with, having time in my calendar, you and I alone, and we can work through stuff together for your podcast, all of that stuff, and it's all free. I'm modeling that after Kevin. Kevin does that so well, and it's a great way to spend time with his audience. I've always loved doing it, but I'm more intentional about it because of Kevin. So that's one of the things I've learned from him just by interacting with this gentleman. He's a great guy, so much fun, and he taught me the meaning of pickles. You're like, Dave, I don't get it. You have to go back and listen to his episode here on the How to Podcast series to see how pickles comes into play, which makes me happy and smile whenever I say that. So pickles is there, and anyways, I'll leave that there. You can go figure it out yourself. Kevin is a great guy, great to listen to, great to talk to, a good human being, and happy to highlight. Let's say highlight. Happy to highlight Kevin's podcast here on the How to Podcast series in the month of November. This is the last one of the month. Whew. Well, what a great way to spend the month, talking about great podcasters, answering questions for podcasters, and putting the focus on you, the audience of the show. If you ever want to be featured on the show, kind of like what we're doing here with Kevin and Podcast Growth University, let me know. I'd love to point people towards you and your show. Get you some more listens. The How to Podcast family is amazing. So putting your show in front of this group of amazing podcasters will definitely have a huge impact for you and your show. So let me do this for you. I'd love to help you with this. But let's jump into this. Kevin Palmieri Podcast Growth University, here on the How to Podcast series. Excited to have this time to feature him. So here you go. Here's the show. Listen, listen, listen. I'm sure you're going to love it. And don't forget the pickles. Here we go.
And now, on with the show.
I don't know what's going to happen after I come on your podcast. I don't know how long it's going to be until the episode comes out. Sometimes I do. Sometimes they say. Other times I don't know. I don't know how many listeners you have, because you can tell me a number, but it doesn't mean it's true. But I do know I have the opportunity to connect with one person, and then something might happen. Hey, podcast people. Welcome to Podcast Growth University. I am your host, Kevin Palmieri. Over the last 5 years and 1,000 episodes that I have been on, I have learned a lot about podcasting, what to do, what not to do, and the common mistakes that people, including myself, have made. This weekly podcast is focused on helping you grow, scale, and monetize your show. Every single episode will be focused on that. Let's do it. Podcast Growth Nation, welcome back to another episode of Podcast Growth University, where we talk all things podcasting all the time. I hope you enjoyed last week's episode number 119, Vanity Metrics. What are they and why do they matter? Today, for episode number 120, the top 3 lessons from guesting on over 900 other podcasts. My goodness. So, guesting on other podcasts is drastically different than I expected. I think everything is. I think expectation versus reality is kind of the name of the game for everything. Is anything ever the way you expect it? You expect a movie to be a certain way, a restaurant to be a certain way, a song to be a certain way, and it never really is. But I've realized a lot, and I've learned a lot of lessons, great lessons, not so great lessons. I guess all lessons are good if you use them correctly. And I want to share them with you because I realize that most people don't have the time or the resources to be able to go on 900 other podcasts. I mean, that's a lot, right? Over the course of 7 years, but really over the course of maybe the last 3 to 4 years, that's happened. So let's just get right into it because that's what we like to do. One of the other reasons I wanted to do this episode, because I'm always talking about the importance of being on other podcasts. That's something you're going to hear me say. Will that ever shift? Maybe. I don't know. But for now, that's one of the best ways to grow your show, to network, to meet people. You never know. You never know what can happen. All right. The number one lesson that I have learned over 900 podcast guest opportunities. The best ways to research the shows that you're going to go on. So a couple things. One, it's very, very important to research the shows you're going to go on. That's one lesson. Not just because you want to know who you're talking to, but there is something that happens when somebody says, hey, do you know what the show is about? And you say, yeah, I know it's called this. And I know, judging from your branding and your marketing and your content, your guests, your audience is this. And this is usually the direction your episodes go. And this is kind of the why behind the podcast. When you show up as a guest and you know all of that, that already sets you apart. You're already in a different bucket of somebody who just shows up and doesn't know the name of the host. If you know the host's name and you can start with that, you're already building rapport, and that's going to go a long way. So that's one thing, is do research before you go on a podcast. I cannot tell you how many times I have known more about that person and their podcast than they knew about me. Again, I'm not making that wrong. Some people don't want to do research, and that's totally fine. I feel the responsibility to do the research because I want to make sure that, number one, this is an aligned show, and number two, I know who I'm talking to. That's very, very important to me. I hope you are getting on other podcasts. I hope the guests are improving. I hope the confidence is improving. I hope maybe the podcast thing doesn't seem as crazy as it once did. And I hope that your listens are increasing. And I hope your one-on-one conversations are increasing. Even if your listens aren't increasing and your one-on-one conversations are, you're probably winning more than you realize. All right. As always, until next week, keep on crushing it. Keep on podcasting. I'm grateful for all of you, genuinely. And we will talk to you all next week. Thank you for listening to another episode of Podcast Growth University. If you found value in this episode, please take a couple of seconds and leave a review in the link below. And you can always reach out to me on Instagram. My handle is @NeverQuitKid. I am happy to answer any and all questions you have. We'll talk to you on the next episode.
So there you go, Kevin Palmieri, Podcast Growth University, the show I listen to every week, and I love it. It's a great podcast. And again, Kevin's a great human being, so definitely go check out that. Add it to your list. If you're a podcaster looking for more podcasting information to help you grow your show, I highly recommend Podcast Growth University. Again, because Kevin's been on the show and we've had conversations, and I really do trust this guy. He's really a great podcaster, and I really would love for you to go check out his show and go binge listen. Go listen to all the episodes. It's really, really good. Kevin really breaks it down well. And what I love is at the end of every episode, he does his hopes for you as a listener. I hope that you're doing well. I hope that your podcast is growing. He always ends with a hopeful message for you as a podcaster for your show. And I love how he leaves us full of hope every episode. That's who he is. He's a great guy. So definitely check that out. Podcast Growth University, all the information in the show notes as always. And I'd love for you to go support Kevin and all the great things he's doing for podcasters. Reach out to him. He's a great guy. He'd love to hear from you. So that's another great episode for November. Hey, another feature on another great podcaster. Thanks for being with me for 30 episodes in 30 days. I know it's a lot. I try to keep them short, edit them down, so just give you the highlights. But I just wanted to say thank you for participating as a listener. And as a podcaster, I want you to start planning today for 2025 for National Podcast Post Month and doing 30 episodes in 30 days. Come up with an idea today, start working on it now, and you can start recording them now. And you can always date them for the future in your hosting site. And then just as you have time, create another episode, and then you can have 30 episodes in 30 days next year. I'd love to put the challenge in front of you to see what you can come up with. If you want to brainstorm around what you can do on your show, reach out to me at howtopodcast.ca anytime. Thanks for listening, everybody. Take care.